3, 2, 1.
What is going on, Southwest ISD? Welcome back from a break. Thanksgiving has passed and the sports are still rolling on. I'm your man, Brandon Medina. I am here joined, like always, with my man, Peter Wagner, your athletic director. Peter Wagner, how are we doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm still stuffed from Thanksgiving turkey and lots of pies and meals like that. What was your favorite thing at your Thanksgiving?
Man, my mother-in-law made green chili hominy casserole.
Whoa.
It was legit.
I can promise you one thing. You were the only person in San Antonio eating how many green chili cats? That sounds incredible.
It was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, we hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. There's a lot more sports going on. When we left off, football had just concluded. Their playoff appearances had just concluded. And then now we are full. It's a full track season as far as for swimming, for basketball. Soccer is starting to get going. Obviously, there's a lot of big buzz around soccer with the World Cup currently. So I'm sure a lot of those boys and girls are very excited to get the season going. But when you come to Southwest and you talk about athletics as a whole, obviously with football concluding, I wanted to get kind of your thoughts, Mr. Wagner, about what you thought about the football season for both programs. An earlier exit than I think we would have hoped, of course. But overall, made the playoffs, setting records on records every year that Southwest continues to make the playoffs with, I think, the 17th season. And then Legacy, this is their third, correct, right? Straight?
I think so.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, both programs are obviously playoff teams. We can establish that. But what did you think about the season? We'll start with Southwest first, and then we'll start with Legacy after.
I think in both of them coming into it, we knew they were going to be young. They had a lot of people especially at Legacy, they had some serious some big shoes to fill from the previous year.
Yeah.
So, that maturation and growth at Southwest High School between, Tyson Dean and some of those guys, that's a lot to build on, a lot to go into the offseason and be proud of. If you watch the playoff game, going into the season, knowing for the last few years we've been matching up with SAISD, which is a little bit different than matching up with the Victoria schools and things like that.
Yep.
And so we come into that Victoria West game and, knew it was going to be tough. Coach Franco knew that we could play with them. It was going to be a good game. But the way that game went down it was good. He was right, but gives a lot of hope for the coming year because there's a lot of guys returning next year. So I think that they definitely met expectations. And given the way they played that first round game, I think they probably exceeded it a little bit. You got the offensive MVP and your boy Brian Lizama, things like that. And so I think they did a great job and a lot to build on next year.
Yeah, I think if we're doing a high school fantasy football draft, I'm taking Brian for sure in that first round. But yeah, I think
he's gonna get his carries.
He's gonna get his carries for sure, workhorse. But yeah, looking at it, Southwest 17th consecutive playoff appearance. That goes well into my family's history, well into coaches on coaches, just multiple different years and decades. And so with that. How do you think Southwest can kind of get over that hump as far as playoffs and grow for the years to come when it comes to having so much playoff experience?
Well, I think it's an expectation. So, I mean, making the playoffs is I think at Southwest ISD has become expected. Yeah. Like you don't do that. It's like, what happened? You know what I mean? But, until this year, we had a 6-year run at winning by district as well. But you get to the playoffs, that's a whole lot different because of the setup. You get in, you go to the Metroplex and different areas like that, and in 8, 5, 10, 15 years ago, the first round was South Lake Carroll versus Trinity.
Yeah,
those are number 1 versus number 2, and so it's a matter of matchups. Getting in is what you just got, as Bill Parcells used to say, you just got to get in the tournament and see what happens. And so we do that well. The next hump, I think, for Southwest High School is they're going to have to develop some linemen and talking to Coach Bradford and things like that and getting ready to go for next year. But developing linemen is kind of what they do. So,
Yeah.
you know, smash mouth. Let's go.
Yep, that's right. So now we talked about Southwest. Let's talk a little bit about Legacy before we move on to all the other sports. Legacy's season comes to a close. It was a tight one, tight race for that playoff spot. We went through the fire and armor. They came up short, but started getting a really good run after that. Talking about that team, obviously the QB position, extremely talented over there. Running backs are talented. Lots of just speedy kind of, not gadget guys, but wherever you put them, they're going to be successful. And so looking at Legacy as a whole, what did you think from Coach Bruce and that team? And then where do you see them going over the next few years?
I think that what Coach Bruce and his staff did was phenomenal in filling those big roles that those guys left. I think that they did a marvelous job of tailoring what they do to what their kids do well.
Yeah.
I think everybody tries to do that. I think that they really made adjustments. They really stuck to that and went with it, and it showed in the success. I think that overall the success of Southwest ISD football, even when it comes to a young school and a young program and at Legacy, is kind of like expectations matter to the degree that they walk in with some confidence, like, yeah, this is what we do, and I think that built a lot in from what they've done the last few years. I mean, other than the 0-10 season that they, the next season they were right there. They lost a tough one a few years ago to Martin down.
Yep.
And if they win that game, since they would have made the playoffs every year since they've been in varsity competition. And so, there's an expectation of performance that they've built that Coach Bruce has continued from Coach Tarvin with that staff, and they've done a magnificent job. So I don't see that that's going to change. I think that, they're going to have a few holes to fill as well as everybody does, but I don't think that there's going to be a drop-off.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think it'll be pretty cool.
Cool. Well, Coach
Big
Bruce.
Fire and Armor Bowl again next year.
Yeah, we're running right back. So Coach Bruce, Coach Franco, two incredible coaches, great guys, great individuals, care about their players, care about that team. And so we wish them the best of luck, especially going into the offseason. You know this as a former coach. This is where those diamonds get made in the rough right here. This is the hustle it out part. This is there's going to be a lot of hills being run over there at Southwest.
We're bred in Medina Peter every third day.
Yeah, this is where I was not. This was not my strong suit right here this time of the year, nor was any of it. But with that, we do have a lot more to get into as far as athletics as a whole. So football is done, and now we're in full swing in basketball season. Basketball at Southwest is really interesting too, because I feel like basketball has always been very, very competitive when it comes to Southwest ISD, and basketball as a whole in San Antonio obviously is extremely important. What can you say about our basketball coaches and programs and what you're excited for this year?
I think that we're still building.
Yeah.
In terms of both programs, I think that if you're going to let's talk girls first. There's Legacy's going to have to replace a couple of really good ones again, and they've done that over time. And Coach Mack built a pretty good foundation, and Coach Hernandez is taking over that group, and they've already, I think they're just over 500 right now. They're doing well. I think the Fire and Armor matchup between those two schools is they're very. If you look at how those games have gone, if you want to watch a good basketball game that's just fun to watch and competitive, come watch the girls play each other because they're always close.
Yeah.
Kind of like the football games. And so I think both teams will be competing for a playoff spot. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily the district championship,
right?
But I think they'll be competing for those second, third, and fourth spots as they go. When you get to Southwest High School, Coach Lira has taken this group from being freshmen and kind of like the volleyball team at Southwest, same concept in that I think they're really starting to see the fruits of their labor.
Right.
And so I expect them to be kind of like that dark horse in the district that they can really make some moves if they really choose to build and grow and really accentuate their strengths. So I think that'll be an exciting little thing that we haven't seen because Legacy's made the playoffs. They've been close to making the playoffs last year. They're about a game out. Southwest has been down near the bottom the last couple of years, and I think it'll be fun to watch them really compete in district and get going. On the boys' side, I think the Dragons are going to be they're kind of a dark horse in terms of, they might be middle of the road, but they might excite some people. Last year, if we were doing this last year, it would have been a heck of a story because they started out 7-1 in district and then turned around and went 1-7. You know what I mean? So, not to bring up old stuff, Coach Stewart, but
I think that happens in basketball.
Yeah, well, they're just close, and just little plays here and there, and they're in the playoffs. So I think that group's still kind of the same. They're very athletic.
Yep.
We'll see what happens with that. I think the story is going to be Legacy. Legacy's probably is going to be competing for the district championship. When you talk to Coach Abbott, he's very confident in what his team can do, and he's scheduled that way. They went to Dallas and competed against teams like Duncanville and things like that, and scrimmaged those guys and played well. Then they went to another tournament, lost by 10 to the number 13 team in 6A and the Woodlands College Park. They've played Judson Vets. They've played some really tough teams. Competed in some ways and learned a lot, but they've won some games and things like that. So beat a couple of good teams in 5A in Laredo Martin and Medina Valley already. So to say, they're kind of going with that lift heavy, lift often, and then when it comes to district time, we're ready to play a faster, different kind of game. And I think that those guys are going to be interesting to watch possibly towards the top of the district. We'll see how well they compete. But same thing with the Southwest High School girls is these kids have been going. They're sophomores playing varsity, and now they're juniors and seniors, and they were young last year, minus one or two kids. So, and
I think that's why you grow this team over time. That's why you continue to, like you said, see the fruits of your labor over time. And as a whole, basketball is one of those games, man, where it's all about who's on a run. I mean, it's a two-way street. One, a huge thing is chemistry in basketball, like every sport, but I think in basketball even more. You got to understand. I got to have a feeling for when you're going to make that cut, for when you're going to set this pick, or I have to kind of know what you're going to do next based off of previous games. And it's a full camaraderie team sport. And I think as a whole, we've seen some really, really good players come through over the past few years. Even before I worked with the district, just watching from the stands, coming and watching cousins play or friends play, whatever. But I'm really excited for this one. Like you said, it's a building block year, I think, as a whole for the program. But it's also could be a statement year for the Southwest girls and the Legacy boys. And so it's going to be an exciting one. It's fully kicked off now. I know each team has played about 10 or 11 games or so they're starting to really get a good feel for who's going to be starting, who's going to be subbing in and out, who's going to be your go-to players. I'm sure they're creating a lot of really good game sets and scenarios for each team.
And to do that, we're in the middle of the tournament season. So, like this week, we have the Southwest ISD Boys Tournament. So we got teams coming in from all over the state. Right before we left for break, the girls had their tournament. We had teams from El Paso and Houston and Dallas and the Valley and Corpus and all that. And so they're playing different teams to see different matchups to do those things. And this week we get to do that again. Yeah. I think tomorrow Legacy opens up with Dallas Carter and everything. So like I said, they're lifting heavy and see what happens.
No kidding.
So well, hopefully our rims make it. But so it's exciting times. Yeah. And everything with the basketball teams.
And with that, even more exciting times, the work that our board and staff and you especially have put in is finally getting to see the fruits of that labor too, with swimming finally getting going in our beautiful new aquatic center. Talk about a little bit how exciting that is to see swimming not only be back, but have a significant solidified home for themselves here at Southwest ISD.
I got to give a lot of credit to Rini Rodriguez, our assistant athletic director of aquatics, and his staff. All of them, from our coordinators to our head coaches and staff. But before we left that Friday, we hosted a Friday-Saturday championship meet with TISCA, which is the state organization, but it was all the 4A schools in the state of Texas. Were here. We had teams from Monahans and Andrews up in your neck of the woods and Lubbock area and stuff like that, all the way to Houston and Needville and all over the place. And we had 450 kids swimming from all over the state that were excited about our facility. And then now this week we host our first one, where our kids get to jump in there with about 12 other teams and have at it. And
that'll be Friday, right?
And that's Friday, all day Friday. And everything that we get to do that for the first time. Well,
if you're looking to open up your weekend with a bang, make sure you go over there to the Aquatic Center all day Friday to watch that swim meet and tournament. I think that's going to be a fun one. This Aquatic Center obviously was a huge project. We saw how awesome it was for water polo. Now we get to see swimming. How do you see the program just continuing to grow because of the Aquatic Center? Do you think we have, I assume, do you think we have a pretty significant edge on the competition having it so close to home?
I'll give you an example. When we came out of water polo, we had a couple of like dual meets where our teams competed against each other,
right?
Things like that. The first thing was we were going to make sure we owned the Aquatic Center records for at least a couple of weeks and stuff like that. But when they swam in those meets with each other, they had already broken the times. We had a kid break their best time by 17 seconds.
Whoa.
That's
like smash. That's
not even break, exactly. But even more so, just to give you a better idea, is last year when we finished, after you go through a whole year of wherever we were able to swim, right? When we got to regionals, that's where you're supposed to be peaking, we took those regional times, and the first time they swam this year in our pool, and it wasn't wasn't a big meet, you know what I mean? It's just, let's get in the water and swim some and compete a little bit, kind of like scrimmages almost. Every one of our kids broke their regional time record.
Wow.
By a couple of seconds. So they're already faster than they were at the end of last year without all the practice time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when you add that, just having the facility makes that big of a difference right off the bat. And then playing water polo gets them in there. And then for the future, you take a second grader is getting swim lessons right now and then being introduced to all of our different programs. A fourth grader is getting swimming lessons for a week, getting introduced to all of our programs. In the middle school level, our sixth graders are a big part of our middle school program. And so they're already getting into it, and they're going to compete. So they're going to start racing against each other. And then in the spring, they'll start playing water polo and things like that. You start building that up over time. Our kids are just as good as anybody else, and just as talented. They just needed the resources, and I believe that now they have that, and probably better than just about anybody in the state. And so, I think that we're in position to do some big things in the swimming world.
Wonderful. That's great to hear, man. And I know moving on from swimming, not only are we in position to do great things there.
One more thing. Don't forget Thursday, we got our first diving meet too.
Oh, diving.
Diving, sir. Yep. With judges and everything.
Is this the first for Southwest ISD?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right. Did you ever try it out? Did you ever try diving?
Oh man, I was on it the other day, dude. I did a fat gainer. It was awesome.
Bunch of belly flops over there. No way. Yeah.
I said we need to start a cannonball competition.
I'm all about it. That's awesome. Well, don't forget then diving Thursday. That's an exciting sport, man. It really is. It's difficult to, I think, explain versus seeing it in person, seeing how intense.
Even understanding it is. Yeah. I still don't understand. They have to do 11 dives. They have to do 11 different dives.
Number?
Yes, they have to do 11 different dives. And, the things that you take for granted, you're like, oh, just diving, right? Just doing a dive. And no, it ain't that easy.
That's funny, man. Well, diving's going to be Thursday, and then you got our swim meet on Friday. We do have the World Cup currently happening, and so there's a lot of excitement around soccer. And when it comes to soccer, Southwest ISD is up there with the best. We've seen collegiate coaches come out of Southwest ISD. We've seen professional players from Southwest ISD who have moved on and played professionally. This is a sport that we take pride in up there, I would say, with football, with volleyball, baseball, track, stuff like that. Soccer, what are you expecting? What are you thinking? I'm sure the kids are excited. They're just practicing right now, just getting going, and then games will begin in the new year, so we'll be covering a lot of soccer in the new year. But what are your expectations as athletic director for both soccer programs?
Well, you look at last year, we had all 4 of our programs make the playoffs. So I would say that that's kind of the expectation again. It's hard to improve district-wise when at Southwest High School when you have both of your teams went undefeated.
Yeah.
But I think that it's the same thing. It's a matter of get in the playoffs and then see what you can do. You know what I mean? And soccer is one of those. If you can do it right, you can beat just about anybody.
Yep.
The next step for us in soccer is we're about as good as we're going to be without investing our community, investing a little more in the club stuff, and being able to do that. And that's just the God's honest truth. To be able to start competing at times, we were there last year to a certain degree. The year before in the regional tournament, it's that little step of our kids playing not year round maybe, but playing also outside of school at a very high level that gives you that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like we don't give them enough, but I'm trying to figure that part out.
Yeah.
Where we can bring those opportunities to groups of kids that maybe can't afford that part of it, but that's the next step for all of our programs, but especially soccer. So to talk about this year, though, I don't see why a district championship of some kind from either one of those, from either school, is out of the question. Winning a first round game is probably not out of the question. And then, the next round that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You're going to have something because you're going north.
Yep.
And those people pay and play a lot.
A lot of academy teams, yeah.
There's a lot of academy teams coming after that, and so it's a matter of what you can do. Very excited at Legacy. I think we had somewhere close to between the two, but I didn't get the numbers from Southwest High School, but at Legacy, we were talking about it yesterday. I think they had 70 girls try out for soccer.
Wow.
I think they had close to 75 to 80 boys try out for soccer, which means out of those 80,
sheesh,
we only keep 45, 50. You know what I mean? And so we have good numbers, and we're getting the best crop of the best that Southwest has to offer. Yeah. And so that's pretty exciting.
Only 11 make the field.
Only 11 make the field. Exactly.
That's craziness, man.
Yeah. Makes for great, as we all know, great competition makes for great teams.
Yeah.
So
wow. Well, that's incredible stuff. I think the interest has peaked in soccer around the states, but obviously not only around the country, but specifically San Antonio. You have San Antonio FC just won a championship. You have the World Cup. It's a World Cup year. Obviously, there's a lot of kids that are interested in soccer that maybe previously were not.
How about Coach Letty and going to the World Cup last week?
I had no idea about that.
He was in Qatar last week.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
He's at 3 of them. I think he was at the England game.
Wow.
And stuff. Yeah.
That's incredible. But, whenever it's a World Cup year, I think everybody gets excited for it, starts paying attention a little bit more. The States, Mexico, and Canada will be hosting it in 4 years. So I think you're only going to see that popularity rise over time. But it's great to hear that our district is in good hands in soccer, swimming, and basketball. So once again,
well, you look at our UA program, our little rec league program that's just pre-K through 6. We have 400 kids playing that. Yeah. We only had 70 playing basketball. We increased that, but soccer's a big deal.
It is. It sure is. And as a whole, athletics is a big deal. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here with you guys every week. So, again, for Peter Wagner, I am Brandon Medina. We thank you guys for joining us again on Scoreboard. This is your home for all Southwest ISD athletics. We are looking to continue to add pieces to the podcast, so we're looking to add this over onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts and more, so hopefully we can get that going here very soon so you guys can listen on the go wherever you are. But for right now, our home is here on SWISD TV on YouTube. But we very much appreciate you listening. For Peter Wagner, I'm Brandon Medina, and like always, we are Southwest.
3, 2, 1.